Okay, so I am going to be doing a really quick review today because I am really tired and it is really late and I gotta get up in the morning early. Okay, so here we go. Today we are going to be talking about Paper Towns by John Green. I love this book so much, as I love John Green so much, as I said in a past video, and he just never fails to disappoint me because his books are all amazing and I loved Paper Towns. Yeah, and on with the description. Who is the real Margo? Quentin Jacobson has spent a lifetime loving the magnificently adventurous Margo Rock Spiegelman from afar. So when she cracks open a window and climbs into his life, dressed like a ninja and summoning him for an igneous campaign of revenge, he follows. After their all-nighter ends and a new day breaks, Q arrives at school to discover that Margo, always an enigma, has now become a mystery. The Q soon learns that there are clues, and they're for him. Urged down a disconnecting path, the closer he gets, the less Q sees the girl he thought he knew. Okay, so that was the description of Paper Towns, and again, I loved this book. It is probably not my favorite John Green book. My favorite is definitely Looking for Alaska, but it is most definitely the most entertaining. I loved this book. It was so much fun, and I was laughing a lot of the time. I especially loved all of the pranks that Q and Margo went on in the beginning of the book, and all the adventures and the road trips, and it was just really exciting. And I love those kinds of books where like they go on all these adventures and everything. I also love those kinds of books where it's like the story is all in one night. That wasn't this book, but that's like one of the kinds of things that it reminded me of, and I loved it so much. And let's talk about the characters. I loved all the characters. I loved Q so much, and he grew so much in this book along the way. In the beginning, he was just this scared guy, not really knowing what to do, but throughout the novel, he really grew as a character, and he grew into this person, and he was opening up, and he was opening up his shell, and he was broadening his horizons, and he was taking risks, and it was really great. And I loved the character development in Q. Other characters I loved, Ben and Radar. They were hysterical. Ben, like, trying to be cool, but we know he's not cool. And I especially loved the Honey Buddies. Kinda love the Honey Bunnies. I loved Radar's quirky, geeky self and his obsession with Omnictionary, and the Black Santas were just hysterical. And probably one of my favorite parts in this book was when Ben and Radar and Q and Lacey all went on the road trip together near the end of the book. They really reminded me of this ragtag Motley Crue team, and it was really fun to read. And I loved how John Green put like the hours in the road trip, hour 1, hour 2, hour 3, and like each hour, and how much fun it was, and the adventures they went on, and it was really cool. And I loved when they were going in the gas stations and doing it all really quickly, and it was really funny. I love that. And the characters, yeah, the characters I really loved in this book. They were really great characters, great quality characters, and there was a lot of character development. And one thing I loved is, even though we didn't get to see Margo in most of the story, just in the beginning, we really got to learn a lot more about her through Quentin and through his point of view. And John Green did a really good job at doing that, and not many authors can do that, to develop a character that much when they're not really physically there in the storyline. And in this story, there were so many metaphors. Like, John Green loves to use the metaphors, and I love all the metaphors he always uses. They're so fantastic, and they were so great in using them for Quentin, trying to figure out who Margo was, and everything like that. And I also have, like, one of my favorite quotes in here. It talks about the metaphors yet again. It says, and this is what Q says, "We don't suffer from a shortage of metaphors is what I mean, but you have to be careful which metaphor you choose, because it matters. If you choose the strings, then you're imagining a world which you can become irreparably broken. If you choose the grass, you're saying that we all are infinitely interconnected, that we can use these root systems not only to understand one another, but to become one another. The metaphors have implications." And that's basically what I loved about how John Green put it, is that metaphors have implications. And metaphors, you can put it in one way, but certain metaphors, they have implications and they imply different types of ways of meaning. So if you're trying to say how Margo said when they found the dead guy, in when they were kids in the beginning of the book. She's saying maybe all the strength in him fell apart. Well, like the book said, that could mean that it's irreplaceable altogether and irrevivable and something that cannot be put back together at all. But then with the roots, when you're saying we're all interconnected and that we can still grow from our mistakes and move on from them, that's a different type of metaphor as well. And so everything has a different meaning to it, and everything has different things implied within it. I don't really know what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get across. But anyway, what I'm really trying to say is John Green's books, one thing I love about them so much is that all of his books always have a major lesson learned. And in this book, the major lesson learned by John Green, and it's like probably the most obvious one, it was the metaphor used by Quentin's parents with the windows and the mirrors and how you perceive people. When you look at someone and you see mirrors, it's how you perceive them and what your idea of them is on the surface. And when you look at them as windows, you're seeing what's inside of them and what's inside their soul. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to look at people as windows, specifically Margo. You're supposed to see Margo as a window, and Q has struggled with looking at her as a window all throughout this novel, and he's always seen her as a mirror. And he thought he finally figured out the person that Margo was, and then in the end, she was completely different than what he thought. So the book really is telling us people are never what they seem on the inside, and what you think of on the surface is never what's inside them. And like I said, Q has struggled with this throughout the entire novel, trying to figure out who Margo really was and what she was trying to tell him and how this all connects to him. And he thinks of her as an idea, as this amazing idea, and he idolizes Margo. And then throughout the novel, he finds out that she's just a girl. She's not this goddess of some sort, but really just a girl that's trying to figure out life and get away from home and be herself. And in the end, when Quentin thought that he finally had her figured out, he didn't. And that just shows that you never really know a person, and you can't know them completely, and you can't become them. Like in the poem, like in Walt Whitman's poem, you can't really become a person. You can get so close to understanding them, but you can never become them and know them the way that they know themselves. And so I always really love the lessons learned in John Green's books, and that is why he is one of my favorite authors. That is why he is such a fantastic author, because he makes us think, and he makes us think about all these different things going on in the world, and how we perceive ourselves, and how we perceive others, and how he just keeps making us have different ideas and complex ideas that I would have never thought of if I hadn't read any of his books. He has broadened my mind to so many different types of things and ideas that I never really thought of before, and I love that because I love learning new things, and he is just such an inspiration to me. He is just a fantastic author, and I can't wait to read more of his work that he publishes, because he just makes me so happy, and he has a way of making a book so intellectual but so entertaining at the same time. Like, you can have really boring stuff and then you can have really fun stuff, but usually you can never find that balance that you're looking for in a story, and it's really hard to do, but John Green does it, and he does it so well. And yes, although sometimes you can see his characters as being very similar, like Quentin and Miles and Will and Colin, they're all similar in a way, but they're very different from each other in the sense. But we all learn one thing from each of them and all these life lessons, and it is just a fantastic way to create and read a novel that all of his readers will love. This was just such a thought-provoking novel, and it was such a fun novel, and I loved it to death. And I love John Green to death. Oh my god, this is just so good, and I can't contain myself, and oh my gosh, it's so good. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna give this book a 5 stars out of 5, because I just enjoyed it so dang much. Flippin' flappin' fantastic book. Yes, so now you know how I feel about this book, which is very strongly, and I love it and I adore it so much, and I'm gonna go now. So I'm gonna see you later, DFTBA, bye bye. Oh, say, who kisses with